Hi, everyone. Today, I want to talk about food sensitivities, what they are, how they affect your sleep, how to know if you have them. So, before I get into telling you how they affect sleep, I think it's important to distinguish between food sensitivities and allergies because a lot of people get those confused. So, an allergy, a food allergy, is something that you have an immediate reaction to. So if you think of a child who's allergic to peanuts and goes into anaphylactic shock immediately, that is an allergy. Food sensitivities are different because they can be a lot more delayed by even a couple days. And so it's really hard to connect I ate this food with how you're feeling or sleeping in general. So a lot of times people say, I don't have any problems with foods. I feel fine after I eat. Well, a lot of times you can't tell until you give up that food for, say, a month and then reintroduce it. And then you realize that it was affecting you. I know this happened to me with gluten, where I didn't think that gluten made a difference. But finally, I took a break from it. And 30 days later, I ate some gluten and I realized it gave me a little brain fog. It made me feel really bloated, and it did affect my sleep that night. So these things I wouldn't have known when you're just eating them all the time, it's just becomes how you feel, right? Like I was used to feeling bloated and kind of gross and a little tired and that minor brain fog. And so that just became how I felt all the time. That became normal. And I didn't notice until I gave it up and then reintroduced it again. And so, food sensitivities produce, if you're sensitive to a certain food, then you produce different antibodies against it. So, there are IgA antibodies, there are IgG antibodies, there are IgM antibodies, and they all kind of have to do with how long ago you were exposed to that food. So an allergy uses IgE antibodies. So that's how you can get that tested if you're actually allergic to a certain food. But a lot of times we're looking for IgA and IgG antibodies. Now, how this affects sleep is that if you're eating foods you're sensitive to, it's causing this low grade inflammation all the time. It's causing the stress on your body all the time. And when your body is stressed and inflamed, it releases cortisol day and night. And when that's happening at night, that is going to wake you up. And so this can definitely affect sleep, either cortisol spiking at bedtime from what you ate at dinner, or that inflammation can continue into the night and cause high cortisol at night, which will cause you to wake up. So another way that food sensitivities affect sleep is because if you are eating, if you're sensitive to foods, then your gut isn't totally healthy. Now, some people argue that everyone is sensitive to gluten. We do know that gluten increases zonulin, a sign of inflammation in the gut of everyone. But for people who aren't as sensitive to it, their gut responds and heals really quickly. And people whose gut is more damaged and do have gluten sensitivity, it takes their gut a lot longer to heal. And so I look at food sensitivities as showing how healthy the gut is. The more food sensitivities you have, and the more things you're reacting to that we think of as like normal healthy foods, then the more unhealthy your gut is. And it's kind of a chicken and an egg situation, as we don't know what comes first. And it's kind of a vicious cycle, because you eat foods you're sensitive to, that damages the gut. And then when your gut is damaged, then you become more sensitive to foods. And so we'll never really know which came first, but it can help to figure out your sleep, to find this piece of the puzzle. Because my goal is to eliminate as much stress and inflammation in your body as possible, so that your body can heal, your gut can heal, and then you're able to sleep normally. Now, The most common sensitive foods are called the big five foods, and these are gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, and corn. So these are the most common foods we see. I know I see in a lot of my clients gluten, dairy, and eggs. And this is tough because this is often the food we're eating most of the time. But you can also be sensitive to foods that we think of as healthy, like nuts or spinach or pineapple. So, my goal isn't to avoid all of these foods forever. It's to eliminate some of these foods temporarily while we work on healing your gut so that you're able to tolerate most foods in the future. And for my clients who are sensitive to 30 different foods, and it's a lot of random things, I don't want them to worry about every little ingredient and everything and eliminating every single little thing. We're going to focus on the main ones. If they're sensitive to gluten, dairy, and eggs, cutting those out is going to make a huge difference. And if they have broccoli or or something else, every once in a while, it's not a big deal. So that's also how I look at it, is what's going to make the biggest difference as quickly as possible. Now, there are two ways to find out which foods you're sensitive to. So one option is to do an elimination diet and eliminate those 5 common foods for 30 days, and then reintroduce them one at a time every few days and see what happens. Now, the problem with this method is that it can be hard to stick to, and it's also only identifying those most common foods. And you could be reacting to, not to dairy and eggs, but to something else, and you'll have no idea because you aren't eliminating that. So the other option that I prefer, that's also faster and easier, is to do a food sensitivity test. And so the test I use looks at 190 different foods, and it looks at if you're producing IgG antibodies against that food, which at a certain level means that you are sensitive to it. And so then we know really quickly what you're reacting to and what is going to make the biggest difference to eliminate. So that's why I use that test as one of my 4 tests, is to find that out really quickly. So I see this as a piece of the puzzle to figuring out your sleep, right? It's not necessarily going to make a huge difference just by itself. If you also need liver support and you have a pathogen in your gut and you have heavy metals, then eliminating those sensitive foods, again, is just one piece of that. But by finding what's stressing your body out and eliminating those as much as possible, then your body can heal, you can get better so that you can sleep normally. And I've had a couple clients where gluten sensitivity is the main thing for them. And so doing that can make a big difference. But like I said, it's different for everyone. That's why I use 4 different tests so we don't miss anything. And so it can be customized as to what you need. So that is how that works. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And if you are having trouble sleeping and you want some help with this is what I can help with. I use lab testing to get to the root cause of why you can't sleep, give you a plan so that your body can heal, and then you can sleep normally in just a few months. All right, I'll talk to you next time.